here with Alex King. Today is Thursday, April the 9th, 2020, 4 p.m. New York time. Wherever you are in the world, thanks for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And we have experienced interesting Zoom issues today. No, not security issues. More like we just can't connect to YouTube issues. And I don't know why. I don't know what changed. But Alex, I'll have to do some investigating afterward and see what happened. Meanwhile, those of you who are looking for the live stream, I apologize that we couldn't include you today, but we are posting this video later on so you can be a part of it. So hopefully that works out well for everybody involved. How you doing? I mean, we're Danless today. We have no Danning going on today.
Yeah, he's MIA.
I don't know where he is, but hopefully, maybe he'll show up in the middle of the podcast. You never know. But hopefully
Surprise!
Everything's okay at his end. Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Big surprise. But I wanted to share with you some interesting news. Now, I have, over the last few days, been kind of moving away from any kind of coronavirus coverage because I wanted to make sure we were really focusing on good feeling stuff. But today I have to bend the rule a little bit.
Okay.
Because there's some really interesting news that has come out today that I want to share with people because it strikes me that it's really relevant to what we talk about here on LOA Today.
Okay.
Now, before I give any of this, I want to make sure I put out the appropriate medical disclaimer. We are not doctors. We are not giving or dispensing medical advice of any kind. Anything that you hear on here that leads you to wonder about changing any kind of regimen you have, make sure you check with your doctor first, because we are not here to be your medical doctor. What we're here for in this particular case is to share with you some information that is now starting to permeate into the news, and that I think is probably going to, over the next few days, maybe get more and more coverage. But a fascinating thing has happened. It started, it started with a post by J.K. Rowling, of all people, the author of the Harry Potter books. Yeah. She posted a video, because apparently, I guess she is dealing with the virus herself.
Oh.
And so she's been doing some research and so forth.
Now I feel it's personal now.
I think that's what that said. And don't quote me on that. I don't want to start a big scare. Maybe she isn't really sick. You know, that's just kind of what I recall. I didn't get any impression that she was in danger or anything like that. But I just have this feeling that from what I remember, she said she was looking into it for her own purposes. And when she found it, she ended up, sharing it publicly because she thought it was going to be so useful. And I happen to agree with her after having seen it. It's a video of a doctor, I think based in New York or Boston, one or the other, who was giving advice on how to deal with breathing issues if you have a rather severe case of the virus. Oh. And this is actually a very important thing because, I mean, you'll recall if you've been paying, I know you haven't been paying any attention, so maybe I have to kind of clue you in.
Yeah.
One of the big issues that's been going on since this whole thing started was ventilators. Getting enough ventilators. So you knew about that part.
Yeah, I knew about that.
So getting enough ventilators. Yeah, right. You haven't been completely in the dark. So.
No, I wish, but no.
Wish, right. Yeah, I understand what you mean. But anyway, ventilators has been a big thing and lots of politics about it and so forth. Well, it turns out, sadly, that 80% of the people put on ventilators are dying.
Yeah, I heard. And
typically, with a ventilator. Now, ventilators are usually used in cases where people are in really severe conditions. So it's not surprising to hear that 40 to 50% on average die when they're on a ventilator, just because there are so many people in, they're in really serious condition. But when you start getting up to 80%, the doctors start taking notice and saying, well, wait a minute, maybe are we actually causing more problems than we're actually solving? And maybe it's because of the way ventilators work. Maybe it's the doctors are thinking maybe it's putting too much of a strain on the patients because the patients. What are we doing there?
Sorry, that's the doctor call. Hold on, I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. Well, you take the doctor call and I'll talk about doctors for a second. But the doctors are speculating maybe it's putting too much strain on the lungs of the patients who are already very low on energy and struggling to survive. And perhaps they shouldn't be using that as a technique. So that's a question that's going to be discussed, I'm sure, in the news for quite some time. And we're not going to try to address that one. But it did raise the need. Okay, so what do you do instead? If you're a doctor, what are you advising people? And some doctors and nurses have been engaging in some very clever alternative approaches to dealing with breathing issues. Because apparently what happens with this virus is if you get into really critically ill situations, people just are getting almost no oxygen. Even to the degree they're able to breathe, they're just not getting enough oxygen into the body, and that's ultimately why they're dying. It turns out that a number of them, like I said, have been trying alternative therapies, and this particular doctor was putting out there the idea that if you use a lot of deep breathing techniques, you will end up with a better ability to absorb oxygen. And in fact, he demonstrated his technique on the video. Now, this is actually a video he had made for one of his patients. I think it may have been somebody J.K. Rowling knew. I'm not sure exactly how she got it. But he was demonstrating the technique, and it's a very simple technique. Essentially, you take, I think it's 5 or 6 very deep, long breaths in a row. You hold each one, and then you breathe it out. And then I think on the 6th cycle, you cough deliberately into your hands or into some protective thing so you're not spewing stuff all over the place. And then you lie on your stomach or on your front, and you breathe not as deeply, but more deeply than you normally would. And the reason you do it on your stomach is because most of your lung is on your back rather than on your front side. So you're basically taking even more stress off of the lung. So that was the particular technique this doctor was illustrating. There is a United States news correspondent who has the disease. He's actually the brother of New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. His name is Chris Cuomo. And he reported that his doctor had him doing something similar. It was a similar kind of breathing technique, not the same one, but it involved deep breathing. And the idea was if you give yourself the best opportunity to breathe deeply and to absorb as much oxygen as you can, you're going to make it that much more likely. Makes great deal of sense to me. Much more likely that you're going to be able to survive the severe period that patients often go through. So it got me thinking, well, this is very similar to what we talk about when we talk about breathing techniques and meditation techniques, because what is one of the most important aspects of meditation? It's the breathing part, right? In fact, I think it was Louis de Souza on Monday who was talking about what he called, well, not just what he calls, what people call the 4-7-8 technique. That's the technique, I guess it's drawn from a particular version of yoga, where you draw in a breath for a count of 4, you hold it for a count of 7, you discharge the breath for a count of 8, and then you start all over again. In other words, it's a slow, deliberate, deep breathing technique. And there are a lot of these techniques. There are a lot of different techniques that different yoga practitioners advocate, different meditation experts advocate, but bottom line is they all add up to the same thing. They add up to taking deep breaths in order to oxygenate the body completely. And there's nothing really new about this. This is all, it's been around for generations, this kind of thing. The reason I say it's relevant to us here is deep breathing is something that is a part of many life coaches regimens that they instruct their clients on. It's a part of what a lot of people do who are trying to help other people who have various medical issues. So breathing becomes a major part of it. And I see our friend Dan Mangena is logging in, so I'm going to see if I can help him. There he is.
So sorry, guys. I completely lost track of time.
Well,
completely lost track of time.
Hey, better late than never. That's all I can say. Glad to have you. But actually, Alex is also dealing with. She took a call that came within the first minute, so I've been kind of talking on my own here. Not that I didn't have anything to talk about, because I actually do have something to talk about.
Brilliant.
But I'll clue you in on. Okay. What's that?
I hope Alex is okay.
Oh yeah, she's fine. She's fine. But I'll clue you in on what I've been talking about. I don't know if you heard about it, but there is news that there are a couple of news items. One of which is really kind of taking hold in a large way among the coronavirus news followers, which is that the ventilators that have been, the big deal for all this time are showing to actually be counterproductive.
I thought so.
In other words, 80% of the people who are on them are dying. And the average for somebody who is on a ventilator for any kind of condition, the average death rate is around 40 to 50%. So it's well above average. And so a number of doctors have been taking it upon themselves to recognize that trend and say, well, maybe we shouldn't be putting them on ventilators. Maybe the ventilator is too much for their lungs because they're already struggling anyway, and it does put some stress on the lungs. And so a few have been trying to come up with some alternative techniques for getting oxygen into the body, because apparently that's the big danger with the virus, is that people who are in severe situations are not able to get enough oxygen to the parts of the body that need it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said to Alex at the beginning of the show, J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter books, published a video that was created for a patient by a doctor in either New York or Boston, I can't remember which it was, in which he demonstrates a breathing technique. And the breathing technique, once again, very simple, was take 5 long breaths in a row, and then after 5 breaths the 6th time, cough, not out into the room, but, into your hands or into, something to protect everybody. And then after doing those 6, then, I guess you repeat the cycle, and then you go onto your front or onto your stomach, and you don't breathe super deeply, but you breathe more deeply than you often would. In other words, you're focused on doing a lot of breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was also saying just before Dan came on, CNN news correspondent Chris Cuomo, the brother of New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who has, and Chris has the disease, said his doctor had been telling him very much the same thing. And what he was doing is, besides doing deep breathing, he was getting up and moving around rather than lying in bed, because you needed to get the whole process going better.
Yeah.
And I thought this was fascinating because this reminds me, it's very reminiscent of what we talk about when we talk about meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Because in meditation, we talk about deep breathing, taking long, slow breaths, in part because we humans are well known for being short breathers, right?
Oh,
we take very short breaths. It's a stressful kind of breathing that we do. And it's not hard to imagine that somebody who's dealing with the virus is going to be breathing shallowly because they're afraid. I mean, that's one of the things that fear does. Fear creates that stress situation. So I just wanted to bring this out. Like I said at the top of the podcast, I'm not claiming any kind of medical knowledge. I'm not advising you medically. I'm simply giving you this information. And if you want to make any kind of change, we suggest you contact your doctor about it. Do it all the proper way. But we wanted you to know that this is going on because, hey guys, apparently we've been talking about the right thing all along where coronavirus is concerned, and we didn't even know it. It's the breathing, guys. The breathing.
It doesn't matter. We're
helps.
Always right.
So I wanted to share that. So first of all, Daniel, glad you can make it. You're smiling as I'm talking about this, and you actually said, yeah, it didn't surprise you. Why didn't it surprise you about the news with the ventilators? And what do you think about what we now know about breathing?
There's generally speaking, if you look throughout time, generally speaking, the popularized remedies for things turn out after a time not to be the case. So if you go back, even when they were dealing with, was it not Lyme disease? Syphilis, was it the French, what did they used to call syphilis back in the day? And they had all these.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
French disease.
Yeah.
The French disease or something.
Yeah.
And and that one made me especially laugh because one of my heroes, Cesare Borgia, caught syphilis, and he used to have the mercury steams or whatever they recommended.
Yeah.
When leeching was the thing of the day, and we don't know enough yet to know what's going to work and what's not going to work. It's experimental. So, I mean, and this isn't me telling people don't listen to what your doctor says. I'm not a medical person at all, but I like to sort of take a pause and let the experimentation happen first.
Yeah.
Before the fact. So
you're the cautious
my
type.
My personal.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's all right. So what do you think, Alex? Now that we know that deep breathing is important and that that's something that we've been teaching for the longest time in terms of meditation, it kind of reinforces we're on the right track here.
Deep breathing is always important.
It is.
And and you're absolutely right. As a human race, we do tend to breathe more shallowly and not take the time to be, and I hate this word, mindful of our breathing. But
why do you hate mindful?
Because it's so distorted. It doesn't mean what it's supposed to mean now, and it's like every time someone tells me to be mindful, I just want to punch them in the throat. Like, Get out of my face.
Mindfully your throat.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I've come to hate that word, but I guess I just got to redesign it in my brain and rework it.
Well, I would recommend that because you definitely don't want to train yourself to have this negative vortex every time you hear the word mindful. I mean, that's when you want to change it.
It's an automatic eye roll. It's an automatic eye roll. Like,
yeah, I can tell.
I'm like, get mindful. Yeah. Oh, nobody saw that. Oh, it's okay. Yeah, Daniel, we have no YouTube today.
Yeah. This is an interesting day. Zoom would not connect to YouTube. Well, it connected to YouTube, but it connected to my personal channel instead of to the LOA Today channel. So I'm not sure what's going on.
It might be overloaded. There's a lot of people online, so a lot of digital stuff. Just 1 second. Ariana's singing. Just 1 second.
Well, there's also the fact that Zoom gave a software update that I installed yesterday. That probably has something to do with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you probably got to reconfigure everything.
Yeah, there's a good chance of that. So I'll be having a little chat with Zoom support after the show.
We'll have Dan call because he's already in a fight with them, so it's okay.
No.
Who am I calling? What the?
So saying you already got beef with Zoom, so have Dan call anyways.
Oh no, me and Zoom we're working our stuff out.
Oh, okay, cool. Good.
Yeah, we're working our stuff out. I've been going so much deeper with the reality transurfing, and it's really interesting because I had the similar situation when I first started doing Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. I'm not learning new stuff, but I'm hearing stuff that I know in a different way, and that's reminding me of stuff. And one of the concepts is on mirror imaging, and Vadim Zeeland, who wrote and created the modality, wrote the book and created the modality, says, well, we have to really consciously give to life what we want, not the request of what we want. Mm-hmm. So every little pocket of my life that I'm giving frustration to, or I'm giving anger to, or I'm giving upset to, I'm actually creating the mirror image back to come back to me. Me wanting of them versus me looking for opportunities in my life where I can give that to others and cutting the energy to those things. So even down to, I sent someone some money and it didn't have his middle name, but Western Union says optional on the middle name. Yeah. He went to go and collect and they were like, sorry, you haven't got your middle name on here. We can't give you the money. And so he said, oh, it's just a simple thing. And then I went on the website and the website's like, oh, would you like to edit a name of a sender? Yes. I added the middle name. Sorry, too many changes. What do you mean too many changes? I've added the middle name. And I felt the frustration start to build up inside of me, but I realized this situation wasn't going to change in my favor if I continue to project this frustration versus dropping in, changing my breathing. I did some Ho'oponopono, took a breath, went on the chat, and as I went on the chat, I visualized then everything being worked out, everything being cool, and relaxing to certainty that it's going to be okay. And the person was even like, hey, thanks for your patience, and being really, really polite. And I was giving him that, I'm so grateful for you, blah, blah, blah. Everything was sorted out in a couple of minutes. Versus what I wanted to do, which was get on the phone to Western Union and be like, your website is stupid. And instead I just switched it up, and that switching up just created a lovely flow. My friends got the money that I sent over. Everything is groovy, lovely, and wonderful.
Nice.
But I know that is because I chose the energy that I put into the situation from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And so with Zoom, guys, am I happy with all of your changes? Not necessarily, but I'm not going to give it energy that I don't want.
Absolutely. I completely concur. And I think you do too, Alex.
Yeah,
and we've all had those experiences, right? Dealing with usually a call center, right? The call center is usually the beginning of the conversation where you tell the story about how you had one of two routes to take. It was either I was going to go ballistic or I was going to be mindful, to use the horrible word, and and say, you know what? It's going to work itself out. It's all going to work itself out. And when you take that second route, guess what? It works out. How about that? It's amazing.
We could call it kindful instead of mindful, Alex.
I like that better, actually.
Kindful's nice.
Kindful, yes.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Hashtag Wick.
A new hashtag has been born.
If I knew how to spell today, oh my God.
I mean, I had the same thing also yesterday. I had one of my other businesses, one of the introducers basically gave us a client that's been very, very difficult, and basically trying to think versus following instructions and causing delays. And then I started to go into this whole thing, like we got an email from someone. I started to get all this stuff in my head, like, oh my God, that's going to make this delay, and that person's going to be talking to me like that. This is why I left this business in the first place, and blah, blah, blah. And then I was like,
hear me out.
So I went to do I was like, I'm going to send the voice. And as I was doing the voice, I noticed myself just dropping in and be like, it would be really, really good if you could just have a word with them and invite them to just follow the instructions versus, what the dickens, just get them to do it that way, blah, blah, blah. And, even taking a pause, because sometimes you're just not in a space to have a polite conversation. Take a break from it or ask someone else to say it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good time to walk away and take a 5-minute break. I call that a dishwashing break because that's my thing to do. If I just need to get away from something, I'll go wash some dishes. I know that sounds strange.
And my mom love to wash some dishes.
Don't tell Olga that one, please. Don't tell Olga that one, please. Because she'll be like, Daniel, you look stressed. Why don't you go to the dishes?
Yeah, that's against my rules. I don't do dishes.
Let's just say this is another case where I am not dishing any official medical advice or anything like that. I'm not saying you should go do dishes. I'm just saying this is what I do.
Find what works for you and take a 5-minute break.
That's right. Exactly.
I had a similar issue with Comcast earlier this week.
Another call center.
My bill had shot up $100, and I was like, I'm sorry, what? So I called them, of course, as I'm in the mindset that if I throw a bitch fit, everything goes my way. So I'm going to call them and I'm going to throw a bitch fit, and they're going to be like, oh, okay, hold on. We're sorry. You've been with us since 2008. Have anything you want. And it didn't go that way. They were like, nope, there's nothing we can do. Bye. And I was like, oh. So I took a break, called back the next day. The thought came to me. I was like, maybe they can do this and maybe they can do that. So I took a break and I was like, hey, can you guys do this for me? And they were like, we can do you one better. And then they fixed it. And I was like, thank you.
Well, you also experienced firsthand the benefit of the tone down.
Yeah. Yep. I definitely did.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Tone it down.
Tone it down. Absolutely.
I can dance some Heart's Desire today. There's no risk of anybody seeing it.
Well, there actually is some risk because I'll be posting the video on YouTube that I'm recording, even though we can't actually live stream it. So just giving you a little fair warning, a little heads up. There will be video. I just I just can't say who's going to be on screen because Zoom still controls that,
That's all right, Zoom. I see you in your green yellow box.
We're on to you and your shenanigans.
He's got the evil laugh out. Here we go.
In other news, I'm reading Rashid's book at the moment. I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, I was actually going to contact Rashid, but then I had to talk to my psychiatrist because I think there's something about my AVM that prevents me from being able to do hypnotherapy. But I am interested, so I want to see how it goes. Because he was interested in talking about my agoraphobia and seeing what we can do with that. So emails will be sent.
But yeah,
for those who are wondering, Rashid Edwards was on the show with us last week. That's who we're talking about. So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Pop back and check out last week's show because it was a good one.
It was great. Yeah, I loved having him on. The thing I loved about him is, well, first of all, he is the consummate professional. He's very careful about what he says.
Yeah.
Notice that even the way he words things.
His book's the same. His book's the same.
Is it?
Is it?
Yeah. It's like, it's like, I make sure that you don't think that where it's someone else's idea. I say he's very clear.
Yeah.
In creating those boundaries and having real clarity. I'm enjoying it. I will finish by Sunday and get a review up.
Yeah. Nice. Well, give us a review next week. I mean, we want to find out. Tell us what you think of the book when you're done with it and what you got out of it.
And we'll do indeed.
Is it on Audible? Because I'm a lazy reader. I like being read to. I don't like to read myself. Which is weird because as a kid, I used to love reading.
I don't recall seeing Audible. Maybe that's a suggestion for you to bring into his world.
Facts.
Something to think about
Adding
there.
value to others and having value come back to us, creating value vacuums in the world.
Ooh, I like that, value vacuums.
That's very good.
Have I never spoken to you about my value vacuums concept before?
No.
Not in detail. Tell us about the concept in more detail.
Value vacuums are really cool. It's a way of crossing over basically good karma and the law of attraction. So obviously we attract what we are.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do with the value vacuum is we create more space for more things to be attracted into our experience, because the universe keeps things in perfect balance. So when we create by giving, there's an imbalance created in the universe that must be filled. It's the law of polarity in action.
Mm-hmm.
But that void will always be filled of what we are, what we expect to show up in our experience. So when I'm working with entrepreneurs or like business owners and career professionals, I encourage them to go and create value and then hold the frequency of abundance, and then the law of attraction will meet that value with money. It's one of the tools that I teach in my Beyond Success course. So going out and giving value, but not I'm giving this value because the law of attraction is going to give you more money. No,
right.
From a pure place, you just give.
Mm-hmm.
And give and give and give and give and give without thinking about it. And that creates a vacuum. And then the law of attraction fills it up with who we are. So we hold abundance.
Mm-hmm.
So we give with a purely giving heart with no expectation of anything in return. But then the universe has to keep the balance. And so it will fill it up. Not necessarily from the same space, but it will fill it up. So, yeah, it's a really great tool to just give and 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 give. But giving from a whole place, knowing that the law of polarity and the law of attraction will fill it up with goodness.
That's
Well,
good.
that's why my life's so awesome.
Yeah. So if you want love, give more love. And the more love you give and hold the frequency of love, as you give more love, give more love, give more love, even if it's not reciprocated from the people that you give it to, give them more. If they don't respond, give them more. If they ignore, give it more. This isn't a call to be a stalker, but give love. Right. Then the law of attraction will call more love into your experience. So people, for example, that are looking for a loving partner, rather than looking for what you don't have, find opportunities to give love.
Yes.
Not necessarily to a loving partner, but maybe give love to a family member, give love to yourself, give love to the plants, give love to humanity, go and be of service, lovingly in the heart, and hold the frequency and certainty of love. And then the law of polarity will fill it up. It's a great way to supercharge if you've got a business. Use this to supercharge. It's crazy how it works. We've had some ridiculous results with this concept.
It's really good. And I like the fact that you combine it with what I call not keeping score. That's my way of describing, not getting involved in tracking to see, well, did it show up yet?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
lack mentality.
That's like death right there. Waiting
right.
for,
it's like I donated to 4 charities this month and I haven't seen a dime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've done it from lack. And so what you're going to get is more lack, because we don't get what we get who we are.
Yeah.
I had someone who came to, she did my challenge was it last week? I did my challenge. Where I did the last challenge, she did the challenge, and I actually met her at a workshop I did a couple of years ago down in Florida, and she was really upset. She sent me a very upset message today because I did all my work, I held the frequency, I did this and I did that and I did that, and now I've ended up with this quality in the person that I was with when I thought I'd done everything right.
Mm-hmm.
And she does a lot of work of spiritual work, so I could be a bit more firm with her, but I was like, but we don't get what we consciously want. We get what we unconsciously are.
Yeah.
So the sad fact is that you say you wanted this, this, and this, but at a real level, what was really desired was what's shown up, because we never fail in what we receive. We always receive an exact reflection of where we are as a frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that instance, saying to her, go back to basics and go back to the blue, because that's what's going to happen. So if you're in love with the idea of being in love, that's all very well and good. But if your actual patterning, your actual frequency is lack, keeping score, looking for when it's going to show up, asking questions about when it's going to happen, all of those are reflective at a deep level. Doubt, fear, lack, all of these things are basically going to give you the exact opposite or nothing at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's true. In fact, there was a post on Facebook that it was a meme somebody had shared. And I can't remember what the details of the meme were, but what it amounted to was that your words are what are most important. And I looked at the thing and I said to myself, I think this person's actually missing the boat here. And so I posted, words are fine, but words can be misleading to what you're actually feeling. So if you are saying the words, I love everybody, but you're saying, I love everybody. I mean, the universe knows which one is which. This is not a difficult thing.
Nice try, Sonny Jim.
Yeah, right.
Was that what film was it? Guardians of the Galaxy. What he's like. Well, Rocco, was it Rocco when they were Guardians of the Galaxy 2, when they were in front of the Eternals, and Rocco was like, I didn't steal the thing.
Oh, yeah.
The wink.
But he's winked in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We didn't do that. The whole room saw you wink. Oh, yeah, definitely. That's exactly what we're doing with the universe. I love everybody. It's like, I see you, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, it's true that if your words are in alignment with the feeling, sure, the words are going to be very powerful in that case, because now you're in alignment. One agrees with the other. You're not fighting yourself.
Yeah.
But if you're fighting yourself, that's kind of like the thing that a lot of people in LOA circles will do, because there's this thing about not wanting to ever say anything negative, right? So people who are feeling, they're feeling really uncomfortable about something, but they'll find just the right way to say it that is politically correct. They're gritting their teeth.
I'm so happy that this cataclysmic failure is another opportunity for me to be grateful for life. I love my life. I love my life. I love my life.
Now, by the same token, if you're doing this for the purpose of getting yourself to laugh, that's probably going to work out okay.
Probably.
Yes, definitely. But that laughter disrupts. But, once the laughter's finished, you're going to go back to default. So are you channeling that laughter? And from in that space that you created, imprinting a new program? And if not, then as soon as you finish laughing, great laughing with you. I see you, bro.
Yeah.
To which I replied, darn, I can't get away with anything.
At the camera.
I can't get away with anything. No, you can't.
Yeah, alignment has to work every way in order to be alignment, doesn't it? I mean, not that there's anything wrong with faking alignment, fake it till you make it. That can be a useful technique, but you don't want to stay there. You don't want to stay there. Daniel's giving me a big thumbs down on that. He doesn't like that fake it till you make it. I've actually found value in fake it till you make it, particularly when I was dealing with my knee issue, when I didn't at all feel like my knee was healthy, but I was going to fake it until I got there, and I actually did get there. I'm not saying you should do it at all times, but it can be useful. But my point is that it's so much better when you are in alignment, when you're not having to fake. That's a much more powerful position to be in.
Yeah,
by far.
Hard to be in alignment.
So you say it's hard to be in alignment when you're in pain?
Yeah, when you're in pain. Yeah, because you're sitting there trying to focus, and you're like, okay. Like Walt was saying, he would do the thing where he's like, I want my left knee to feel like my right knee, which is a good knee. So it's like, okay, but it's hard to really concentrate when your left knee is throbbing. Yeah.
But hard doesn't make it impossible.
Doesn't make it impossible.
Didn't say impossible. I just said hard.
and this is one of the things where, having a crutch works. When I speak about crutches, I'm like, if I'm using like crutches to support me whilst I'm building the strength up to walk, is very different to these crutches are me now, and I've identified with them to the point whereby this is all I'm doing. I'm never going to walk. This is it, me and these crutches. So taking a painkiller, using some remedial remedies, some other remedies to deal with the pain, to give you enough space to do that work. That's perfectly fine. And by the way, my thumbs down wasn't for fake it till you make it as an idea. It's the wording. The truth behind it is it. You're claiming in advance the outcome that's coming. I don't like the word.
I understand. Sure. Well, I mean, I
didn't say anything. I just did the thumbs down.
The message came through loud and clear. I read the feeling, not the action.
I was like, that's a great one, Walt. I see.
I think we're definitely on the same wavelength there.
No, but it's true. Fake it till you make it as an idea is really, really powerful. It's claiming it until such time as the alignment kicks into place.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like anything else that we do when we're working through not so pleasant stuff to get to the pleasant stuff. I mean, Cindy Chavez likes to talk about how if you have a negative emotion, don't bottle up the negative emotion, express it so you can get past it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you can let it out.
Yeah.
It's when we try to hold it in that we just keep it's like we're perpetually living in that negative space. So don't live in the negative space. Take the time to express it, get it out, and now you're done with it. Great. Mm-hmm. How good that is.
Yep. Yep.
It's a big deal. Hey, I'm
not going to talk about it. I'm just going to keep it here in my heart, because if I talk about it, I make it real, and I don't want to make it real. I practiced the law of attraction, didn't you know?
No, it's swallow everything and keep it inside until you give yourself an ulcer. That's what you're supposed to do.
Or worse.
Yeah.
Or worse.
It's true. It's true.
It is. Yeah.
I wanted to take a moment to share an email that came in just before we recorded the podcast today. Very short one from someone named Avinash. Avinash says, "Hello, everyone. I subscribed to the podcast today. I love it. It adds so much positivity. Thank you."
Oh,
Gotta love
welcome.
an email like that one.
Yes.
So welcome to the podcast, Avinash. We're glad to have you here. And I mean, I don't know about you guys. I love it when we hear from a listener, especially with something like that. That's just feel good right there.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes my day. So yeah, thanks for sending that in. We've done more coronavirus today than I really wanted to do for the week. So I'll try to steer away from that. I did want to make sure I get that in there though. But I do want to take a moment to talk about the part of it that relates to what we talk about as conscious creators, which is using breathing, deep breathing, as a way to accomplish a number of things. It's useful for helping to clear the mind. Mm-hmm. That's part of the meditation process, right? It is physically healthy because it's like Louis D'Souza likes to say. Louis tells a great little story about his own evolution getting to the point where he learned about law of attraction. The first part of his story is that he was, I think he had asthma. He had a series of detrimental physical ailments that he was dealing with. And so he was doing all this research and so forth. And he realized what he was eating, what he was taking into his body was really, really important. So he started learning all about foods that you take in and what they do to the body and so forth. And he was studying and learning. And then he came upon a teacher who said to him, well, there is something that you take in more frequently than food, and that makes it more important. And that's liquid water. You take in water more than you do food, so water is actually more important. So then he started doing this whole thing with water and learning about water and, learning all the benefits of it and learning, why you have to keep yourself hydrated and so forth. And then he ran into a teacher that said, well, there's something else that if you went without it longer than you do with water, you would die, and that's breathing. Wow. If you don't breathe, you're not going to, breathing is actually more important than the water or the food you take in. So he started learning all about breathing, and then he ran to Abraham Hicks and Abraham Hicks says, well, there's one thing that's even more important than breathing, and that's what you think. So that was his progression. What you take in food, what you take in water, what you take in through breathing, and what you take in through thinking. And I love the progression. But the third step there is what we're talking about. Breathing matters. Breathing makes it, first of all, breathing makes it a lot easier to do the thinking.
True.
If your breath is shallow, it's really hard to focus on anything that you really like and want, because all you can focus on is, oh God, I feel miserable. Right?
Yeah.
Breathing activates. There's more DMT produced in the lungs, I think, any even what are the psychedelic drugs?
Yeah.
So you can actually produce such a beautiful sense of euphoria just from different breathwork techniques and so on and so forth. So even changing your emotional state is much easier to do with the breath. So freedom from stuck states, breath is great. One of my go-tos, especially when I'm feeling really down and starting to slip towards depression, is to go to my breathing, because no matter how funky I feel, even if I can't get out of bed at that time, I can always change my breathing. And the breathing sometimes is just what I need to be able to sit up straight. Right. And when I can sit up straight, maybe I can start to feed into the breath and be at one with the breath. And maybe that can give me enough space to start thinking about things to be grateful for, and then start to create a bit more space. But breath for me is always the go-to. When I get really, really stuck in a deep energy trap, changing the breath, always a great one. Always a great one for me.
Mm-hmm. And you used a very interesting phrase there, an energy trap.
Yes.
You called it specifically, well, energy. I don't know if you've used that particular phrase, but wow. I love the phrase because it uses the word energy. Mm-hmm. And energy, I mean, it wasn't even part of Louis' progression, although I'm sure he would agree that it's included in there. But energy, I mean, what's the phrase that we use to describe the stuff that makes the universe? We call it source energy.
Yep.
Energy. I mean, energy is essential. It's without energy, thought probably wouldn't do a whole lot. To be perfectly honest, you got to have the energy in order to have the thought accomplish anything. Of course, on the other hand, we could probably say that thought created the energy, but that becomes a chicken or egg scenario. What came first?
We'll be here all day.
Thought is a form of energy. Thought has its own.
This
energy.
Is true. Yeah. Yeah.
I personally subscribe to the agreement that everything, absolutely everything in the universe is energy. What we call spirit is just energy, but the consciousness behind energy. I believe energy has consciousness to it. That's my personal belief. The spirit, divine, even what we call God, I believe it's all pervasive energy. It's the thing that's been demonstrated scientifically to be everywhere in everything, even in the empty space. It is energy. It's just energy that we can't see because of the form that it's in. And so everything comes down to energy. I agree with you completely.
So this raises an interesting question. What is the relationship between deep breathing and energy? Because clearly they're two of the most essential things that we have.
I believe that the breath is a gateway to claiming energy to take new form. The same way that thought is, and breathing is another doorway to it. It's like the food that we eat, depending on your belief systems, also is another doorway. Drinking more water is another way. We know that this water, I mean, we're 70% water.
Something like 70%.
That. Yep.
Yeah. So 70% of us as a living organism is made up of water. And so the energy of water makes up a big part of who we are. So we should probably take care of the levels that we have.
No kidding.
So thinking, breathing, whatever it is, it's just a gateway to calling energy into a different form. And that different form gives us a different state of being, and that different state of being allows us to access new outcomes, whether it's more health, whether it's just being sane, whether it's coming out of depression, whether it's being joyful. These are just us as a combination of energy in a different expression. And breath is almost a combination lock to changing that expression.
Yep, absolutely true. So that starts to make me think about something that you teach, which is similar to something that Abraham Hicks teaches. You call it, of course, the term's going to go right in my head. What do you call it? Micro-shifting. Micro-shifting.
Yeah.
Abraham Hicks calls it reaching for a better feeling. And what it amounts to is, you're in place X, wherever X is, somewhere on that guidance scale. Maybe you're at depression, maybe you're at fear, maybe you're at joy, maybe you're at, it doesn't matter where you are. But you don't try to go necessarily to the highest level of the scale. You just try to reach for something that's a little bit better. That's that micro-shift thing.
Minimum deliverables. What is one thing that I know I can do?
Right.
Yeah.
Regardless of the resistance I'm facing, what's the step that I know I can make without failure?
Right. Well,
reach for it.
Breathing is an excellent micro-shifting technique.
Definitely.
Because, first of all, we're all pretty good at it.
We've been doing it all our lives, so
we have lots of experience.
I've been doing it since day one. Breathing, I've been doing it since I was a wee lad.
And secondly, because we're so good at it, it's a low stress thing to do. A lot of these techniques that people come up with can have certain levels of stress. There's not a whole lot of stress in taking a deep breath. It's pretty stress free. In fact, it's actually going to relieve stress. So
sometimes you can concentrate so hard you start to hyperventilate. When you're sometimes when I'm trying to focus on my breathing, I'm like, okay, I go too deep into it. I'm like, wait, am I breathing right? Am I breathing right now? Am I breathing right now? Is that too fast? Is that too slow? And they're saying, no, I'm hyperventilating. And I'm like, all right, try to slow it down. I can't slow it down. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
Well, what you're doing there is what we were talking about earlier. That's keeping score.
What do you mean? Explain.
Well, keeping score is where you're checking constantly to see is the result there that you're looking for. And that's what you're doing.
Okay.
You were checking to see if the result is there that you're looking for. Well, keeping score is counterproductive.
Yeah, true. Very true.
So stop keeping score. It's very simple. You just don't keep score anymore. You don't check. You just breathe. That's all. You don't worry about anything else. You just do the breathing.
Yeah, that's why I just ignore the whole thing and just breathe the way I've been regularly breathing.
Yeah, just breathe. You know.
My brain's been doing it without me for some time now, so I'm just going to continue that little trend.
Really, all we have to be concerned with, where breathing is concerned, is just making sure we aren't breathing shallowly.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, however else, whatever technique we use to get there, as long as we're not doing, sound like we're, a panting dog or something.
Well, that's what it turns into. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's the only thing that you want to avoid. So if you notice that, then you deliberately slow it down. Do what Louis likes. He likes the 4-7-8 technique, where you breathe in for a count of 4. Then you hold it for a count of 7. And then you breathe it out for a count of 8. At that 4-7-8, you just do that cycle. It's a way of slowing yourself down. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what the technique is. The whole point is give yourself that chance to take full breaths. Mm-hmm. And then to exhale full breaths. Whatever method you get to do that is the one that works. It doesn't matter which one it is.
Yeah, I find the square technique works for me.
What's the square technique?
So you breathe in for a certain amount of time. It's kind of like the 4-7-8, except it's an even amount all the way around.
Oh, okay.
So you breathe in, hold for the same amount.
5, 5, 5, 5.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I'll like to make it longer as I go around the square. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking deeper and deeper breaths until hopefully I'm relaxed.
And that's
the square's what I use in my visualizations as well. When I'm doing visualizations, I use the square.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I need the visualization.
And then what you can do is you can then do the 3-2-1 method and work it into the square.
Yeah.
So breathe in, hold, and then breathe out and visualize and hear the number 3, and then do the same with the number 2, and then the same with the word relax and a beautiful plant or flower instead of the number 1. And that relaxes you, and then you continue the cycle in that space. It's really good.
I was just realizing
alpha.
I was just realizing I actually do have a technique, but I never really labeled it as a technique before. But it really is a technique. What I do is, and I usually do this at night if I've awakened in the middle of the night and I want to go back to sleep, so I need to have a way to relax myself. I do one thing and one thing only. I check to see when I'm breathing in if I'm breathing all the way in, and I check to see if I'm breathing all the way out. And that's it. That's the technique. Did I breathe all the way in? Oh, breathe in a little bit more then. Did I breathe all the way out? Oh, breathe out a little bit more. And if I just do that, I'm usually asleep in 5 minutes. It doesn't take long.
Nice.
It's really pretty quick. So, yeah, but it doesn't matter what the technique is.
Yeah.
It's the one that works for you. Just as long as you're deep breathing. That's it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Taking more oxygen so your body can process it. Because that oxygen is so important. It's amazingly important. Not to mention.
You only need it to live. I mean, God.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Hey, we started about 12 minutes late, so we got about 12 minutes left. So I kind of got into the stuff I wanted to talk about. I'll open up a little bit more. Anything first, Alex? Had you thought of a topic today? Because I usually ask you that, and I didn't really ask.
I did not come with a topic today.
You didn't? Okay.
I had one 2 days ago, and then I forgot. And I said I should write it down because I'm not going to remember on Thursday.
That doesn't help. Yeah, write it down. I mean, come on, girl.
Here we are. Oh, I'm usually thinking about it when I'm in bed, not near a paper and pen. And
oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
Remember to write it down. And then I was like, what was I going to write down? I'm the worst.
Well, you could always keep either a phone or a pad of paper by the bed and make a note. I mean, that's
my phone's right there. You think I would do that, but no.
Well, you could always pick up the phone and make the note,
Yeah, that's step 2. I'm not there yet.
So you're like the people who do the 5-step Abraham process, but they stay stuck in step 1.
Yep.
Step 1 is the one where, okay, here's this problem and I really don't like this problem and I really, really, really don't like this problem and I really hate this. I can't tell you how much and they just stay in step 1 over.
Well, I'm an example for the audience because that's why they're here. So, so like, yeah, I do exactly what Alex does. And it's like, well, here's how you fix it.
More attracted in action.
Exactly.
So how do you fix it?
Who, me? I'm here for you. What are you talking about? I'm the example, not the answer.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize we had our roles here. I forgot.
God.
Yeah, your job, I forgot, is to wear the unicorn headphones and have them flash at us and have beautiful purple hair and so forth. So yeah, I forgot.
Yes, exactly.
Oh yeah, doing my job. Yeah.
But just on the off chance that maybe you were going to do something about it, what would you do?
Probably listen more and actually do the stuff that I say I'm supposed to do.
Now that's revolutionary.
I know, right?
That is revolutionary.
Actually,
I mean, follow through?
Yeah, I know. That's crazy.
Correct.
Can you tell the audience what would happen if all of your coaching clients always followed through?
Me?
Well, you're the Daniel.
Yeah, you're the one I was talking to.
I'm just like, me to have such a blessing in my life that everybody follows through. Now, well, I drop all the clients that don't follow through. I refund them. I'm not joking. I refund them.
I hear you.
Because if they're not going to do the work, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if they're not going to do the work, if they're ready for the change, then they'll do the work because we have perfect execution machine. So if you're not following through the work, then it's indicative of the fact that you don't really want the change. And ain't nobody got time for that.
Facts.
It's not my job to drag anyone along. And if this is what you really want, you are welcome to it. I won't be witnessing it.
Yeah.
Bye, Felicia.
Have you figured out why people don't want the change?
Because they're at some level happy where they are. What they're getting is what they truly desire until they're really committed enough consciously to do the work to shift. I mean, change, I think sometimes we lose sight of just how big a thing we're demanding of ourselves when we're looking at it. You know, I'd like to get in a new relationship. No, you're going to have to become a completely different person who is aligned with healthy, successful relationships. Completely unknowing and then re-knowing who you are. Change is not this light-hearted thing that we speak of. Some people probably be better off gritting and bearing what they're doing and just sucking it up. This is not the easy path. Change is not the easy path. Undoing decades sometimes of programming and patterns. You have to really, really, really want it. And I'm not talking about people that don't do the work, but know that they're not doing the work and are doing the work to start doing the work. That's a different kettle of fish.
Right.
Okay.
But I didn't do it because this happened and that happened and I would have done it, but this and it's so hard and I would do it, but this happened and my mum and Donald Trump's the president. Otherwise it would have happened. The weather and blah, blah, blah. Bye, Felicia.
Yeah.
The second that the work is not done from a place of someone else is responsible, I'm out immediately. And that's in my agreement.
Which makes a lot of sense because really that's a person who's defending being a victim.
Yeah.
That's really what.
And we have victimhood happens at different levels, right? I've been uncovering secret victim stuff in my life, even as recently as 2 days ago.
Sure.
But even this morning, I had one. I did a guest on my friends are doing a weekly free coaching thing, and I was a guest coach today. Really, really great, actually. How to the Take Back Control of Your Life series. It's really, really great stuff. And there was something that happened on the show, and I was like, I felt the victim thing coming up. And I just got back into my heart. I did some Ho'oponopono, realigned myself, chose what I wanted to experience, and the whole thing transmuted from there. But so I'm not talking about people beating themselves up and thinking that every scrap of victimhood is going to disappear overnight. At the end of the day, we are human. Were we not, we would not be in physical form. We would already transcended into the ethers. Absolutely. So there are probably still going to be challenges we're going to face. But are we facing them and doing our best to transcend them, even if we don't make it all the way? Or are we sitting down and talking about why Donald Trump, COVID-19, what some other things? Barack Obama, for those who are Trumpites.
Trumpites.
Whatever. Blaming someone else or something else.
Yeah.
And giving the power for change away to another person, place, or thing. I'm out. Bye, Felicia. I'm not really into it.
And for good reason, because that's a person who really does not want to grow. That's a person who's really quite happy with where they're at right now. They're getting some benefit. I mean, it's not a benefit I would want necessarily, but clearly it's a benefit they want.
It's okay. That's absolutely okay. but keep your crap to yourself.
Yeah, really.
Don't take my time and energy. One of my most controversial videos, in fact, aside from promoted, like it was my most popular ever organically shared and grown videos was one I did called Stop Lying. It was about a year ago I posted it, and I got a lot of backlash for it, but that's essentially what I was saying. If you don't want the change, that's fine, but don't waste my time.
Yeah.
Don't waste the time of other people. Don't be an energy drain on other people. If you want to be sad and miserable, be sad and miserable. Nobody's telling you have to change, but enjoy it over there with the other sad and miserable people. Leave us happy people alone.
Yeah, because the ones who are the sad and miserable sharers, I'll call them that. I think there's a perfectly good word that describes that behavior. It's called sliming.
Yeah, sliming.
It's pouring your slime on everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so don't slime. That's just not nice.
Yeah.
That's really, nobody likes a slime.
And the thing is, at some point in our lives, all of us have slimed or probably will slime, and that's okay. So this isn't a judgment of sliming. It's just be aware of your sliming, bro.
Yeah.
Apologize and maybe offer them a towel.
Yeah, right. Right.
You
know, if you catch yourself, if you slime on me, but you recognize, oh, darn, that was an accidental slime. I apologize. Here's a towel. I'm looking at myself. I'm going to do my best not to slime in that fashion again. Those people I can still be around because we can support and uplift each other.
Mm-hmm.
But slime. And the reason why I'm sliming you is because of what the Mercury's in retrograde or blah, 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 blah. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sliming you. But that's what you said last time. I know, but it's still retrograding. No, it's not. Oh, well, it's because I'm a Gemini.
You're right. Right.
And there's something also to be said for that person. You were describing how, everybody at one time or another can end up sliming somebody else. But there is a great benefit in catching yourself in that. Not only is it a benefit to yourself directly, but there's the indirect benefit in that it sets you on a path of upward mobility, of higher vibration mobility. Because just by catching yourself, you raise your vibration, just by catching it.
Mm-hmm.
All by itself. And then when you take action on that and say, oh, well, yeah, I really don't want to be that person. I'd rather, do like Daniel does the Ho'oponopono or, whatever other technique I use to climb out of it. That is high vibration stuff. That's moving into a higher vibration place. So, yeah, good stuff. Anyway, a couple minutes left. I want to make sure we do our promotional messages, which are high vibrational, and we want to include everybody in them. So if you're not yet subscribed to the podcast, be sure to become a subscriber. Very simple to do. You go to LOAtoday.net website, and at the top of the page, you get instructions on how to do it. And we also, on those days when Zoom is actually allowing us to live stream to YouTube, we want you to be watching us on YouTube. So just for the sake of discussion, Alex, assuming that we actually get that ironed out, which we will, so that we can live stream to YouTube, how do they subscribe to us on YouTube?
Okay, well, usually you go to your YouTube app, search LOA Today podcast videos, and once you see our smiling faces, click down below at the red subscribe button, and next to the red subscribe button, there's a silver bell. Make sure you click all so you'll always be notified when we're live.
It's just that simple. Mm-hmm. So good stuff. This is an unusual podcast today. I mean, Daniel couldn't make it on at the top of the hour. We started the show and you had to immediately take a call from your doctor. But I'm going on talking about what doctors in general are saying about breathing, which ties into this whole show we do on breathing and the importance of breathing. Unusual? Yeah.
We had a rough start, but we polished off nicely.
But it fit.
Yeah.
The whole thing fit together.
It did.
It was pretty wild. So well done, guys. That's all I can say. I mean, somehow we managed to take a situation that, Daniel, earlier you were talking about like call centers and how you can just, start hammering on people and then you stop yourself and say, well, that's not going to actually get the result that we wanted.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well,
it's also not being that much of a nice human either. So.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have gone ballistic over the fact that Zoom wasn't working properly and that we couldn't get to YouTube properly, but we didn't. We just went, okay, well, catch you next time. Not much we can do with that one. So good stuff. Good on us for doing all of that. So thank you guys very much. Thank you especially to our podcast listeners as well. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Bye, everybody.